you can change the world. Learn from proven change makers from all walks of life. They'll show you how to raise money, invest for impact, and so much more. You can start small. Start today and never quit. You can change the world by strengthening your superpowers. Now, welcome to the Superpowers for Good show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have with us today Eve Picker. She is the CEO and founder of Small Change, a crowdfunding portal for real estate with social impact, and she's just an amazing human being. Please help me welcome Eve to the show. Eve, thank you so much for being here. We're just thrilled to have you.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
The pleasure is all ours, and thank you very much for making time for this. Eve, you've got some kind of exciting news. Let me step back and give you the floor to tell us about what's changing at Small Change.
Well, Small Change just got a little bit bigger. We a pretty small company, and over the last month, we have added 5 new partners to the company. And what's really exciting about that is these 5 new partners actually launched and ran their own real estate crowdfunding platform, which they're going to shut down, and they're going to focus on Small Change instead. What that means is it's not like bringing on a new employee and having to train them. All 5 of these individuals have a very clear understanding of how this works, and we have immediately expanded our resources. So it's pretty exciting.
That is it really is phenomenal news. So tell us about what do you see as being kind of the implications in the short to medium term of having all these new resources? And then give us a sense of the long term vision. How does this change things at Small Change in the long term?
So the implications in short term is that I'm crazy busy because I have to really show a new group of people how we do things to make sure they understand compliance issues, and that while they have their own crowdfunding platform, their processes are very slightly different than ours. So and we're starting to work through deal flow and how we're going to work together. So short term, it's just really onboarding a whole group of people and into a company that already exists, and trying to understand the skills they bring and how we can expand our resources. Long term, um, it's just increased our ability to take on more listings, larger listings, and just do more because there are more hands on deck.
Sure. As you think about Small Change, let's step back just a little bit, provide a little bit more context, because although I know and love you, and I'm excited to have you back on the show. This isn't your first time on the show, but some people won't either remember or didn't see that first episode. Tell us about Small Change
Okay.
and its great history, because you're doing some really cool stuff.
Well, it's hard stuff, and so that's what makes bringing in these extra people so exciting. So, Small Change is one of a group of platforms that are called funding portals. We're registered with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and as a result, we're able to use a fairly new securities and exchange regulation called Regulation Crowdfunding. What I really love about this regulation is that it's the SEC's first attempt to democratize investment. And so, using that offering type, developers can come to our site and raise money from people they know, from their neighbors, in effect, from anyone who's 18 and over. And that's a pretty exciting thing for us. In We focus on real estate, and in real estate, there are many overlooked neighborhoods, cities, developers, people who do not have access to capital um, in a way that you would imagine. And we feel very privileged to be able to help them raise money from people who care about what they're doing. I think that's a
Yeah.
that's a good summary. Tell me if I
It-
missed
it-
anything.
yeah, I think it is. I think it is. And, one of the things that you've done, I think, remarkably well is you've developed your own analysis, your own process, your own rubric for
Right.
measuring social impact.
Change. Yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
I'm an architect by training and I have a master's in urban design. And I've also been a real estate developer. So um, I looked around early on for a rubric, as you called it, that would help us help us. How can we say this? Stay honest and make sure that the listings on our site were making some impact in the world. Impact can come in very many different ways. It could be the team. It might be a minority team or a woman led team, or it could be the neighborhood that's been disinvested for a long time, or could be public spaces they're creating or environmental issues that the project is tackling. We couldn't really find any one rubric that sort of made allowances for a wide range of impact possibilities. So we created our own. And so when we onboard a developer, we look at the people behind the project, who's going to develop it, who's going to build it, who's going to benefit from it, the project itself, what is it doing for the place it's in, for the street it's on, for the environment, those things all matter, and different projects rise up for different reasons, which I personally find really interesting and exciting.
Well, it is. Let's talk about some of the examples because you know the 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 examples of the offerings that you've had on small change, and many of these now you've been around long enough that the offering has been made, the project has been completed, and funds have been returned
Hmm.
generally profitably to the investors. This is really
Hmm.
cool. Tell us about some of the projects that you've seen because they're so different, they're so varied.
Although I have to add to that, investing is always risky, and there's never a guarantee. Even if it's an experienced developers, it can't be a guarantee, as we've all seen over the last 4 years with COVID. That's had really unexpected impacts on the real estate industry that no one could possibly have imagined. But I think let me see if I can give you some examples of very different projects. Well, one is a developer who's focused on helping his community. He's a black developer. Have the ability to purchase real estate in a way that they've never had that ability before. And so he has a mission to buy 16 um, neighborhood shopping centers that are quite large. Some of them are quite large. There's strip malls and a variety of shopping centers. And with each one of these, he wants to offer um, almost half of the ownership of each property to the people in his community. And often that's the neighborhood he's in. He'll talk to churches and nonprofits in the neighborhood, but sometimes it's his friends and family and other people who've been following him for a while. But his focus and mission are very clear. That's what he's trying to do with the offerings he lists with us. We have another developer who's, I suppose, the other extreme. He's focused on purchasing and restoring the great estates in the Berkshires, which is a very unusual focus. But these great estates, many of them are lying fallow. They're wonderful historic buildings. They're mansions with often 18 or 25 bedrooms, and no one wants to own them anymore. So he is repurposing them as event spaces, small private events, weddings, things like that, offering them for very competitive prices, and the restorations are pretty amazing. So for him, raising money through crowdfunding is a really important part of his capital stack because banks view what he's doing as risky, unusual, and they're often rural properties. And so it's very difficult for him to get a traditional loan. So crowdfunding becomes a really serious and important part of his capital stack. So they're two very different examples, I think.
Those are great examples. Those are great examples, and it's been fun for me to have some of your issuers on the show. I think we had Linnea Richardson on the show. We had Joel Miller on the show, and who's the fellow with the pajama factory?
That's Mark Winkelman. I
That's right,
can't.
Mark
Uh,
Wiegel. Yeah,
those are all offerings that are open. I can't talk about them. I'm going to talk about them generally, but I can't. I would
right.
encourage listeners to go to our site, which is smallchange.co, and just take a look at them because they're all
Yeah,
wildly different. I mean, the pajama factory is a totally different example. Mark purchased this 300,000 square foot vacant building, I don't know, 12 years ago. And he and his wife have been carefully crafting it into a creative hub. People live there. There are art studios. There are really interesting stores. He has it 60% full, and he's on the last leg to try and fill the final 40%. It's a life's work.
yeah.
It's extraordinary. So
It's close
so
enough to you. You've probably been to the facility. I haven't been
I
there.
actually visited and stayed there one night
Yeah,
because I just had to see it. It's in the middle
yeah,
of Pennsylvania, so it's sort of a strange
yeah. Kind of in the
island,
middle.
you
Is it
know. Yeah.
Williamsport? Is that where it is?
Williamsport, I think the little league, some baseball event happens there once a year. It's
Yeah,
a very nice little town or
yeah,
city. But that gives you an example of how different the projects are. So for us, the bottom line is the developer doing something to make things better for someone with their buildings, or are they just trying to make money? We think that there are plenty of examples of real estate around the country that are just trying to make money, and it's not that hard to make money and do something good at the same time.
yeah. Well, I'm excited that you are going to, just shifting gears here a little bit. You're going to be speaking at Supercrowd 24, which is coming up tomorrow. As we are, this will air on the
Yes,
16th of
that's right.
April, if all goes well. And
Yes.
Supercrowd 24 is the 17th and 18th. You'll be there participating. I'm so excited. This is, I work all year to get this event organized, planned, and prepared. We'll have nearly 100 speakers on the program. We'll do a live pitch, and you'll be there to do a workshop as well. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to be saying tomorrow.
I don't, honestly, I don't know. You have me on a panel with other CEOs, so I suppose we're going to be griping together about how hard it all is.
Yeah.
Unless you
Well,
can redirect us. But I always love those panels because it's really great to be able to talk to other people working on similar things. We all have similar issues that we have to confront, and there's not always an opportunity to talk to everyone. I love your event. It's an incredibly high energy event, and I'm amazed at how much you pull together. It's quite a feat.
yeah, we have so much fun with this, and this year it's going to be great. We've got an extraordinary program, and we've got there's content for people who are interested in investing, and 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 let me be clear. I can say something that I don't think you feel as comfortable saying, it being you're regulated more closely than I am, but you can make money doing this, right? These are investments, and so you can come learn how to invest and make money. There's no guarantee. It's
There's
risky,
never a
but
guarantee.
we're not just giving people money
No, this is
like on
investment.
GoFundMe.
This is investment crowdfunding. It's very
Yeah,
different than Kickstarter or Indiegogo, where you make a donation. This is
yeah,
you become an investor. Sometimes it's an equity investor, which means that you're a tiny owner of a real estate project, or
yeah,
sometimes it's a debt investment, which means you're making a loan to a project. But it is a real investment. It's the same as someone with a lot of money investing $1 million into a building that's going up.
yeah,
The numbers, the zeros might be different, but it's really exactly the same process.
yeah. And one of the great things, I want to come full circle back to you now, Eve, is you've got an extraordinary experience as an architect and a developer yourself. You built small change to solve problems, all kinds of problems, including problems that developers face in raising capital. So it's an extraordinary tool, and I want to encourage those who are interested in investing in real estate or raising capital for their projects to check out Small Change. We're going to come back in a minute. We're going to take a little break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Eve more about her superpower. And let me be clear, Eve is just an extraordinary human being. So you do not want to miss this conversation.
Hope to raise money from the impact crowd. Good investors are as interested in community, social or environmental impact as you. Connect with Funding Hope, an SEC-registered FINRA member crowdfunding portal to learn how to raise capital from the impact crowd. Scan the QR code now.
Join us for SuperCrowd 24 for 2 full days of wealth and impact creating content at this virtual conference on April 17th and 18th. We'll have 100 speakers and live pitch sessions. Learn how to invest like a pro and raise money from the crowd. Save 50% with the discount code SUPERCROWD at thesupercrowd.com.
You can get in on the ground floor to help fix the climate crisis for as little as $100. Pause now to scan the QR code to get started or visit s4g.biz/raisegreen. You can be a green at Raise Green.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Eve Picker, CEO of smallchange.co, a crowdfunding portal that specializes in social impact real estate projects. Just a great track record of success with great projects that deliver real returns to investors. And Eve is just an extraordinary human being that we're excited to have on the show. Eve, I want to talk to you now about your superpower. You have accomplished amazing things, and you have such a dynamic personality. You are such a leader in the industry, so respected. What is your superpower?
Probably my biggest superpower is ignoring people when they say, no, you can't do this. Actually, that probably gets me going. If someone says no to me, then I put blinders on and I'm going to make it happen. I'm very determined and very tenacious and just systematically work my way towards something. I would say that that's why I really love being a real estate developer and an architect, because in those roles you really make something from nothing. You can start with a decrepit building or a vacant lot of land, and you've got to imagine what it's going to be and how it's going to make the neighborhood better and how it's going to make money and where you're going to get the money from, the whole lot. It's really for me a really fabulous process. I suppose could say I'm a maker. But building the crowdfunding platform was really for me a very similar process, like starting with nothing and imagining what it could be and what it could solve, and then gradually piecing it together was much like building a building. So I don't know, superpower, persistence.
Well, that's a good label to put on it. But the reality is that getting fired up when you hear no is such a powerful superpower, right?
It
It
is.
makes you invincible. It makes you invincible. No one can stop someone who gets fired up rather than discouraged by a no. Because we all
It's
face
true.
no's. We all face the
Well,
challenges, and
women and minorities face a lot more no's than other
that's fair
people.
point.
And
Fair
so,
point.
when I was building most of my real estate development portfolio in Pittsburgh, I was the only commercial real estate developer for a while who was a woman. That's an extraordinary thing to say. Pittsburgh is not such a small town. I was the only female commercial real estate developer. And I realized, sort of as I built small change. How can I say this? I came out of the 2000s, having to shut down my real estate development practice because I couldn't find equity for my deals. As things crumbled in the Great Recession, banks lent a smaller and smaller percentage of projects, and I needed to find larger and larger amounts of equity. And I didn't have deep pocketed investors who believed in me. So I had to really give up what I love doing most because I just did not have the equity. So small change really grew out of that. My own experience trying to find dollars as a woman in real estate was pretty difficult. And when I heard about the Jobs Act and Regulation Crowdfunding, I thought, well, maybe my story would have ended differently if I had been able to raise a couple of $100,000 this way for my next project. And really, that's what I built the idea on. But it has also, small change has also shown me many more problems that exist than even I realized. And for me, it's been a journey of making it better and better and addressing more and more issues as time goes on. I mean, did you know that in 2023, I think about 2% of venture funds invested in businesses went into women owned companies, only 2%. And only about 1% went into minority owned companies. And I don't think that percentage is better than the year 2000. Real estate is absolutely not different. So, where do those people go to build wealth, to start building a portfolio? For many of them, they don't have wealth circles. There's absolutely nowhere for them to go. And that's what we would really like to address on Small Change.
Yeah. That Well, and you are addressing it. You are addressing it, and it grew. This success is came directly out of your superpower, right? You said, "I'm tired of hearing no. I'm going to fix the system, right? I'm going to create a tool that will enable developers like me to succeed," right?
Yes, or maybe disrupt the system. Disrupt the system because the system is very geared towards rewarding people who honestly don't need to be rewarded that much. Dare I say that? It's really stacked against emerging developers, female developers, minority groups, neighborhoods that haven't had investment before. If you've got to get an appraisal for a project and it's the first one in that neighborhood in 20 years, you're not going to be able to borrow money because you can't show the bank that there are three other projects doing well in that neighborhood. I mean, it is stacked against the system is stacked against anyone doing anything that is even vaguely out of the box.
Yeah. So let's come back to your superpower here for a second. How would you coach someone to develop that resilience, that persistence, that tenacity, the ability to get fired up in the face of a no instead of collapsing and cowering in the face of a no?
Oh, okay. I really think my architecture training is really what I lean on very heavily. In architecture, you are taught to look at a site, envision what it might be, and then go back and gradually work towards making that happen. So I work very much in chunks. It is very daunting to think about something big and visionary and how you're going to get there. You have to step back and look at each piece of it and gradually work through those chunks and those building blocks to get to the end goal. I think that's really, for me, that's critical. I don't know if everyone thinks that way, but I get really overwhelmed and I have to go back and think, okay, well, what's the first step? What's the second step? I don't want to think about the last step because it's too much for my brain right now. So I think that's really important for me.
Yeah. As you think about, well, our time is running out here, Eve.
Yes.
As we get here to the end, I would love to keep talking. As we get to the end, let's take a minute. Tell people how they can learn more about Small Change and the offerings, how they can
Yes.
connect with you personally. Some people just want to connect with you because you're an amazing human being. What's the best way?
So
So
the
tell
best
us all
way,
that.
just email me at eve@smallchange.co. The offerings are plainly on our homepage. Just go to smallchange.co and you can click on any of the homepage tiles to look at the offerings. If you have questions specific to an offering that's live, there's a chat room on each listing page. You can ask the developer direct. If any of this is daunting for you or overwhelming, just let me know. We follow a process that's really dictated by the SEC, but we really understand that it can be very confusing for some people. So, and we're trying to figure out how we might have some better educational tools. But essentially, we will help you with any technical issues that you have, and the developer should answer any real estate questions that you have for the particular project that you're interested in.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about crowdfunding is you can ask a question right there on the platform of the issuers, the people who are trying to raise money.
Yes.
Eve, thank you so much for taking
Well,
the
thank
time
you
to
very
be
much
with
for
us
having
today.
me.
Well,
Thank you very
we're
much.
thrilled to have you, and we want to wish you every success in the great work that you're doing. You know, the reality is your work is special. Your work is different. You are helping developers, especially diverse developers, women and minorities, and you're helping address climate change on the one hand and community building on another hand, and so much more. Every angle of your work is so important. I love it. I want to see you
Thank you.
succeed.
Thanks very
Thank you
much.
for being here with us tonight. All righty. Let's do some good.